So I'm here with former Illinois Congressman and syndicated conservative talk radio host Joe Walsh. I'm honored to speak with you this morning. How are you doing today?
Oh, quit saying honored. It's damn good to be with you, my friend. Thank you for the invitation.
For sure. I met you at the University of Chicago, the Institute of Politics, when you were seeking the Republican nomination. You later suspended your campaign after being booed at the Iowa caucus for saying that we need an honest, decent president that puts the country first. You basically, came to the conclusion that Trump is unbeatable and the Republican Party has become a cult. Do you think in the 2024 election that Trump is still unbeatable?
Hey, Ryan, he's the man. It's his party, and that's not going to change. If he wants to run for president in 2024, no Republican will challenge him. I stand by everything I said when I left the Republican Party about a year and a half ago. It's a cult. It's a cult that embraces an authoritarian, and I just don't see that changing soon.
And, I think that's really crazy after everything that's happened, with the insurrection, COVID, which he played a large part in, you've said on your podcast, Fuck Silence with Joe Walsh, that you get down sometimes because you lost your talk radio show because of your opposition to Trump. In retrospect, would you have did anything differently?
Ryan, that's such a damn good question. No. Look, I was a Republican and a conservative. And almost 4 years ago, I stood up in public and said, that man sucks, he's bad, he's dangerous. The minute I did that, Ryan, I began to lose everything. My radio show, my career. I can never get elected as a Republican again. I get death threats all the time. So it sucks. I lost everything. But no, I could never have done anything differently because I can only say what I believe. And you and I may disagree on some issues, but our country comes first. And it comes before any personal benefits I might have.
You actually get death threats from Trump supporters?
All the time, from the moment I came out publicly against him. And by the way, Ryan, I'm not alone on that. Any Republican, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, who I got elected with, any of us who are publicly against Trump, that's part of what you have to deal with. And some of my former colleagues in Congress, they're cowards because they feel the same way about Trump. They just don't have the balls to say it.
Yeah, and you see that a lot, because some of the things that Trump did while he was president are indefensible. There's no way to justify it or explain it if you're a rational human being. And, leading up to the insurrection, a lot of people were, talking yesterday about the coverage that the Capitol Police testifying about the attempted coup in the Capitol riot, and you called out Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and Tucker Carlson, so many others who chose to attack the Capitol Police who were defending democracy. What are your thoughts about that?
What the fuck? Pardon my language, Ryan. What the fuck? Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson. Let's just be clear. Cowards. They're going to attack. Think about this, Ryan. You really got two. Yeah, we've always had a choice, right? Our democracy was attacked on January 6th. We can either attack the people who attacked our democracy, or we can attack the people who tried to defend our democracy that day. These fucking cowards on Fox News, they attack the cops who just tried to defend our Capitol. But Ryan, I'm older than you. I go to bed every night sad because I talk to Trump supporters every day. They all believe this shit that Hannity puts out. They believe it all.
And one of the things you were making a point about how a lot of them are vaccinated, but they talk about on Fox News, tell the viewers not to get vaccinated.
I guarantee, hey Ryan, I guarantee you Tucker Carlson got vaccinated as soon as he could. I mean, think about this. I guarantee you he did. But yet every single night he tells his audience not to get vaccinated. What do you call that? I'm asking you, Ryan. I don't know what to call that. You get yourself vaccinated and then you tell your audience not to? What is that?
It's hypocrisy, and
Bingo.
there's a lot of hypocrites. Speaking of hypocrites, Charlie Kirk, he went on a tirade against Simone Biles yesterday. You were actually on the Turning Point USA advisory board, but left because of the organization becoming intertwined with the Trump administration. You said on Twitter yesterday you were sorry that you helped Charlie Kirk get started.
You know what, Ryan, you know me and you follow me. I've spent a lot of the last 3 to 4 years apologizing a lot,
Yeah.
apologizing for helping. Look, I helped make Trump what Trump was. I helped seed the ground for a guy like Trump to come. And I have to live with that. And I do everything I can every day to make up for that. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. I knew the guy when he was in high school. I helped get TPUSA off the ground. I believed, Ryan, in the original mission of TPUSA. I know Charlie Kirk well. He sold his fucking soul to Trump. He's not alone, but he did that. And the minute Charlie did that 5 years ago, I left TPUSA. Because it no longer stood for its original mission. Now, this guy, Ryan, you nailed it. He goes after that heroic gymnast, who, by the way, could kick his ass. But Charlie Kirk is all about the grift. He's probably the worst of the grifters.
Yeah, I don't know, if he's necessarily the worst. I've met Charlie Kirk, and I don't think he's necessarily the worst of individuals, but I was kind of offended by his statements about Simone Biles. And you see this a lot of times with different conservative commentators who I believe are decent people deep down. I think some of the things and stuff, everything, they can't believe all the things that they spew on social media sometimes. Do you think that it's a lot of times people fighting for attention, just to get clicks?
Hey, Ryan, I know all these people well. I think it's half and half. I think it's partly the world they're in, and the more outrageous you are, the more clicks you get. And there was a day back when I would do some of that as well. But they also believe some of this shit because they're part of a cult. So they follow the cult leader. Donald Trump, Ryan, came out a week ago and said, it's a really good thing our women's soccer team lost. And so now you've got members of the GOP cult cheering against American Olympic athletes.
Right. It's kind of outrageous. I think and a lot of that becomes because there's a whole divide in the Republican Party where they don't want anybody to protest systemic racism. I was looking at something that you said yesterday, specifically on Twitter, where systemic racism can exist and all Americans aren't racist, basically. And those aren't contradictory statements. And I agree with that. I don't think most Americans are racist.
But yet, Ryan, and I learned the last 4 or 5 years talking to Black American men and women. I opened my eyes and I learned that there still is systemic racism. Ryan, I don't know what you think. I think most cops are decent public servants, but I guarantee you cops don't treat Black lives like they treat white lives. Those things aren't contradictory, but that's an example of systemic institutional racism. You cannot be a Republican today, Ryan, and admit that. You just can't.
And that's I think one of the big issues. You said I think at the Institute of Politics, you were talking about how you feel politically homeless. Do you still feel that way? Even with upcoming movements the Serve America movement, for instance.
Yeah, again, I'm an old fart. I'm an old white guy. You're young. You got a lot of life ahead of you. I've been a Republican my whole life. That door has shut. I can never be a Republican again. I respect the Democrats, but on policy, I'm not a Democrat. I hope, Ryan, someday soon, we have a viable third party, a center left, center right, let's get some shit kind of done party. I think that's where most Americans are. But until something like that comes around, I don't have a party to belong to. It's kind of a weird feeling.
No, like I could totally understand that. Like, what do you think was like the shift in like your thinking? Because like, you've made like, some outrageous remarks that you've apologized for in the past. Like one of the things at the Institute of Politics, you said like the person that you would probably apologize first to would be Barack Obama. Because
Amen.
like, and like, because like, obviously you question him about his citizenship. And you made some other like remarks and stuff, everything that were kind of questionable. Like, what was the shift in your thinking and stuff that?
Well, you know what, Ryan, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but Trump woke me up. The election of Trump was like somebody poured ice cold water over my face, and I had to do some real self-examining. Like, did I ever sound like him? I went to Washington 10 years ago, Ryan. I was all about policy, fighting for the policies I believed in. Obama was president. He and I disagree on most policies. Sometimes I let those policy disagreements get personal. And I've apologized to the former president. Trump does that every day. So watching Trump for 5 years really kind of scared me straight. It forced me to change my tone and look at where I helped divide this country. I still believe the things I believe on policy, but I don't engage in that ugly personal stuff anymore.
Talking about policy. So like in 2018, I guess actor Sascha Baron Cohen, he posed as a fake Israeli anti-terror expert on Showtime's Who's America. And he got you to voice your support for arming children as a solution to school shootings.
Ryan, I'll make it easy for you, my friend. No, I don't believe 5 and 6-year-olds should be armed. Look, he's very good at what he does. And he flew me out to Washington, D.C. He put me up in a hotel. He gave me a big award as a supporter of Israel. And then, he had me read a bunch of stuff that Israel does. And within the 30 minutes of the stuff I was reading, he inserted this little bit about 4 and 5-year-olds and guns. He fooled me. Do I believe it? No. But when you get fooled like that, Ryan, by a really, a master at it, all you can do is say, I fucked up. No, I don't believe it. I don't mean it. He got me. Good on him. But Ryan, when you're a public person like I am, that kind of shit can happen.
Right, of course. And he's gotten a lot of people in the past and stuff, everything. That's something he's very skilled at. You've talked about like, conservative radio. We talked about it a little bit before, but like, do you ever see yourself going back to radio?
Well, the funny thing, Ryan, is I tried to. And I lost my radio show again 2 months ago for the second time because I'm anti-Trump. And the owner of the radio station I was on doesn't want an anti-Trump voice. So right now, there's zero room in conservative talk radio for a conservative like me who's anti-Trump. I'm not going to complain or whine about it. That's the market at work. I don't think, Ryan, so I don't think there's any room for me in conservative talk radio.
Do you think at like some point that this will change? Like, because eventually Trump can't live forever. Like, hopefully, not that like I'm wishing him to die or anything, but like that is a fact that's eventually going to happen because he's old. So like Trump can't be around forever.
Here's what I think, Ryan. I think we're watching the death of the Republican Party. I don't think we realize it yet. I think the Republican Party is dying as a national party. I think it's going to be a really strong regional party, and it will be strong in red state America. It cannot be saved. I was a Republican. I believe in freedom, opportunity, and tolerance and all of that. There's no room in the Republican Party for that. And Ryan, I don't think that's changing. I think the party's got to burn to the ground and something new eventually is going to replace it.
Wow. What's next for you?
I can't announce it yet, but I've got a couple interesting new projects coming up. And I'll give you a hint, Ryan. You probably wouldn't have liked me 5 or 6 years ago because I was that crazy ass Tea Party guy. And I did build up a lot of walls. I did, as you said, I helped divide America. I'm going to launch a couple projects to try to help to heal the divide. And you'll learn about it, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks.
Man, that's amazing. I think I learned a lot, from you, seeing you speak at the Institute of Politics, and you are the voice of reason because I like the concept of a lot of the things that go on in the Republican Party is as far as free market capitalism, but I'm turned off by some of the xenophobia. When people start, attacking George Floyd, who was murdered by a police officer because he's getting a statue, and stuff, everything. I think that's kind of troublesome. It's where do I really fit in, in the Republican Party? But I share some of the beliefs because some of the beliefs make perfect sense when you compare it to socialism.
Amen, Ryan. Amen. And the original Republican Party should be able to interest a guy like you because freedom and free markets is a hell of a lot better than socialism. But here's the problem. And this makes me unusual. I'm like a reformed gangbanger. I got out of that gang. And now I'm trying to get the gangs talking. But the Republican Party gang, Ryan, we're really talking about old white guys and old white women. And people of color want nothing to do with the party. Young people want nothing to do with the party. That's why I literally believe it's dying, because it does have this intolerant, bigoted, white nationalist bent to it that's anathema to everything you and I believe.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Joe Walsh. I really appreciate speaking with you.
Hey, Ryan, you're good, man. Damn good conversation. Stay in touch, my friend.
Most definitely.